My name is Robbie. On here, I'm Templar Knight. Every person who believes in God but does not attend a church has a story why. But it's said that whenever two or more people gather in God's name, that He is there. So this is church. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Tonight's lesson was kind of a unique one. Last week was hard, and I pleaded with God to give me an easy one this week. And so He sent some great jokes my way, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna run with this. So this week's lesson was inspired by a buddy of mine, Jaden, and his karaoke skills, and a conversation that happened Thursday night during our fellowship hangout stream. So, when I was growing up, I was not good at sports. It just wasn't in me. I liked to write, I liked to do music, I liked art. But my dad liked sports, which means I was in sports because that gave me time to spend with him. Now, mind you, I loved being with my dad, but I didn't like playing the games. Soccer, t-ball, any of them. I didn't enjoy them. And I remember one day I was in elementary school, and we were out on the playground, and we were getting ready to play a game of kickball. Now, mind you, I'm not good at sports, and everyone knows this. But the two captains go and they set up, stop, and then we're all in a line, and they're getting ready to pick. And one of my buddies is the captain, because he's on my soccer team. And he picks me first. Now, I'd never been picked first for anything sports related, but he picked me first. And it blew my mind because I was normally picked after the kid in the wheelchair. Because I was the guy who just went out in the back and watched butterflies. But he picked me first. And so we're playing the game, and the whole team's going through and kicking. Now, mind you, there's no referees at playground kickball. But someone's pointed out that I haven't taken my turn yet. Now, it wasn't by accident. I was not trying to take a turn. But someone pointed out that, hey, Robbie hasn't gone. So I had to go and take a turn. And I missed. And I missed again. And then I kicked the ball. Well, I hit the ball with my foot, and it went straight to the person rolling the ball, and they gagged me out at first. I didn't do good. But I did what I could. I took my part. And my friend was never down on me about picking me first. We didn't win that game. We lost bad. But despite how hard my team was on me, he wasn't. Why? Because he picked me to be on that team. Unfortunately, I just didn't choose to play. I wasn't good at it. I didn't want it. I didn't think I could do it. But he saw the potential in me, and so he picked me. I let him down. The entire game, I let him down. I could not get a single kick that put me on base. There was one time I was sitting in the grass and the ball rolled right by me and I had to get up and chase it when I was in the outfield. Robbie Sporting Stories. There's a book. Anyway, it didn't go well for me. But he was okay with it, and he's just walking and saying, hey, you know what? Next time you'll try harder and you'll do better. I didn't. I never played again. And this whole week I've been reminded of that story. Because, that's kind of where I'm at with God. See, it says in John 15, verse 16, you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name He will give to you. See, sometimes I wonder, why am I here? Not like in the what is my purpose on this earth. Why am I right here, right now, sitting in front of this camera talking to people? Why do I do this every Sunday night? Why do I deem myself worthy to run a Bible study? Because, there are times when I worry that Robbie does not meet up to Templar's standards. The guy that I come on here to be. Let's just say I'm trying. And I still struggle with doubt. For those of you who have been here a while, it's a reoccurring theme. But why am I doing this? Because I was chosen to. See, I don't do this because it's something I want to do, because it's something I enjoy doing. Honestly, sometimes I'm scared to death. I do this because God chose me. And He put me on this path. And so when He says, hey, I need you to take your turn at bat and go kick that ball. Okay, God, I'm going. Do you have any idea what you're doing? Yes, I know what I'm doing. Take your turn. See, I didn't choose this life for me. God chose this for me. See, so many people, they view that, well, because we're Christians, that's our choice. No. It's not our choice to believe in God. God chose you. God has His path set out for you. The problem is sometimes we don't want to listen. Sometimes we're just like, God, I don't think I'm good enough for this. I don't think I can do what you think I can do. And we doubt the paths He sets us on. It says in Jeremiah 29 verse 11, For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare, not for evil, to give you future and a hope. And I know you use the word welfare there, and in this day and age that has a different meaning, but back when this was originally said, welfare meant your health, your happiness, the fortunes of someone. So God says, I know the plans that I have for you. Plans for your health, for your happiness, not for evil. Plans to give you future and a hope. So that's what God's plans are for us. Our problem is we're getting in our own way. God picked you for this purpose. And you're like, I don't know, man, I'm not worthy of this. I'm not good enough for this. There's someone better. Send them. I screw up too much. When this camera's not on, I'm trying so hard to be the man I think God wants me to be. But I fail. I make mistakes. I let Him down. He puts decisions in my path and He says, hey, go this way, do this. And I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go do this. Because I'm stubborn like that. God chose me to do something different. And I'm choosing to not to. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm trying. I do my best. There are times when I get overwhelmed and I say, I'm not smart enough for this. I don't have enough knowledge. I'm scared. I've done too much wrong in my life. How can God use me to fulfill His purpose? What can I do? That's the doubt I deal with. And that's the doubt I bet a lot of you deal with. God, there's so many better people out there. What could I possibly do for you? How can I possibly serve you? God, there are people who are great Christians. I can't do that. I'm a sinner. And not like I've sinned in the past, like I'm still stuck in a life of sin. How do I get out? How am I supposed to preach your word? Tell people about your love when I struggle just to keep my head afloat? Real talk here. How many of you have ever felt that you're not good enough for God's plan? Me? I constantly feel like I'm not good enough. What could God possibly do with a broken and damaged man like me? I'm going to tell you about a different guy. This guy was not a Christian. This guy was anti-Christian. No, this guy was not just against Christians. This guy hunted Christians. I'm going to talk about this guy. His name was Saul. Back in biblical days, Saul grew up. He was Jewish and he had the life. He studied under some great rabbis. He knew all of the Torah. He was brilliant. He was destined for things. And midway through his life, this guy showed up. His name was Jesus. And Jesus started thinking of preaching this thing called the Way. Jesus not only declared himself to be a prophet, but he said he was the Son of God. No, 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 says Saul. No way. I have studied this my entire life. And Saul struck out against the Way, against Jesus and against his teachings. And when Jesus died, he figured this Christianity thing would fail. It would fall apart. But it didn't. So Saul set out to stop this heresy. These people who spoke so fragrantly against everything he believed. People were dying because of this man's works. This guy wasn't just a non-Christian. He was leading the war against them. But God chose Saul. God had a plan for him. So one day Saul's out traveling, and this bright light shines down from the clouds and knocks him off his horse. temporarily blinding him. And he's freaking out and he's scared. And then he hears this voice, and it says, "Saul, why do you persecute me?" And Saul's like, "Who are you?" "I am Jesus, the one you have fought against, the one whose followers you have destroyed, the people you hunt to kill. I am the Son of God. Why do you oppose me?" And then it was like a light bulb clicked on in his head. And he remembered everything he had studied. All of the prophecies, all of the stories. They were all true in Jesus. Saul saw the error in his ways. And it was like he couldn't see, was blinded. And he said that he rubbed his eyes, and these scales, these flakes came away. And he saw the error in what he had been doing. And he was devastated. He hadn't just lived a life without Jesus' love in it, he had lived a life against it. Could you imagine the pain that he went through, realizing all that he had done? And then finding that this man who he had persecuted chose him and had a purpose for him. Saul went home. And you know what happened? A Christian came to his door. Before he even had time to admit what was going on, a Christian showed up at his house, knocks on the door and says, "Hey Saul, I know that you kind of get Christians dead, but God sent me here to pray with you, so I'm here." Person's name was Ananias. Ananias went to Saul's door because God sent him there. Ooh, that's a bravery that I do not have. And Ananias prayed with Saul that Saul could be forgiven, that Saul could see the path God has for him. Ananias ended up baptizing him. He went from being called Saul to being called Paul. Paul went on to do great things because God chose for him to do it, and he stopped resisting. Paul wrote a letter to the Ephesians. Chapter 1, verse 18, it says, "I pray that the eyes of your heart may be opened, so that you may know the hope to which he has called you." And Paul was preaching to the choir there. Now, how dare I doubt myself? How dare I say I am not good enough to serve my Lord? If Saul can be forgiven, so can I. If Saul can turn away from the life he was living and choose to follow God, so can I. so can you. There's nothing you could have done that is so bad that it could separate you from God's love. Nothing. You need to stop doubting yourself. You need to know that God has a plan for you. God chose you. It comes down to whether or not you're going to choose to follow His guidance. Whether or not you're going to choose to follow the path He has set before you. I'll admit it's not easy. But it's worth it. When I can put aside all of my stupidness, all my failure, all my doubt, and choose to follow what the Lord has set before me, it's worth it. When I can choose to follow what Jesus said, I can find joy, I can find peace, I can find happiness. Even in the struggle and the pain and the suffering, I can celebrate. Because in John 14, verse 6, Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life. And no one comes to the Father except through me. He spells it out for us right there. He knows the way. We just got to follow. He knows the truth. We just have to listen and believe. He is life. And through Him is the way to heaven. So that's where our path leads. We just have to be strong enough to follow it.